Good day to you. I hope things are going well. I've got a video on what might be the most controversial video game of all time until the next one. And also a reminder that today I probably have 4 video uploads. So make sure you check out my first video, which was on Cyberpunk 2077, and all the rest of today's news. We've got a lot to talk about. But I was seeing a fellow YouTuber retweet an article yesterday about a game on Steam. How will we call it? What will we call this game? We will call it the Flavor Grape. No, we will say widget. We will just say widget for this video. I see F censorship, protect free speech. Idiots. And I see the article is Steam is currently enlisting a game called Widget Day, in which you play as a serial killer widgeter. And interesting. Definitely not my cup of tea. It seems like a game that may have been developed for outrage's sake. But the absolute deluge of articles covering this topic prove that these editors at news outlets literally only care about clicks. They understand the Streisand effect. And if the Widget Day game came out and nobody wrote about it, there might have been a few edgelords who purchased the game. And to be clear, my stance on the game, a lot of people have reached out to me and said, this is disgusting. What do you have to say about this? I think if the game is legal, that it should exist. I think I'm not in the business of censoring people. And where do you draw the line? First-person shooters are totally fine. Like adult-themed video games are totally fine. Hentai video games are totally fine. Games where you date a pigeon are totally fine. In this case, it's about as far as you could take it. And I'm sure that's what the developer had in mind. And by the way, I don't play any of these games that I'm mentioning that I can really think of. Well, first-person shooters I do. But also, it's not my position to judge what other people are into so long as it's legal. That's my official stance. Would I sell the game in my store? I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I guess if there's a demand for it, I would probably fill the demand because I'm not playing the game. And the mere fact that you have something on your shelf doesn't necessarily mean that you fully endorse the product. It means that you are serving your customers, at least in my opinion. Again, assuming all of this is legal. You can read that, my first part of my initial reaction to was like, oh, is it just like a edgy name? Is there actual activities that happen in this game? According to Eurogamer, Widget Day comes from the developer Deskplant, and game's content is as tasteless as one might assume from that title. The game is described as a visual novel, with the developer boasting over 500 images and 7,000 words that allow users to verbally harass and do bad things to women as they choose to progress the story. Widget Day has been listed on Steam Marketplace since mid-February and is expected to release next month. And with the game not only containing but actively flaunting images containing and alluding to extreme violence and other things, and incest. It shouldn't surprise anyone that Valve's methods regarding developer guidelines for the Steamworks distribution program and its content policies are now under scrutiny. Essentially, these are Valve's guidelines. Adult content that isn't appropriately labeled in age-gated. Libelous or defamatory statements. This is what is not published. Content that violates laws of any jurisdiction in which it is available. Content that exploits children. application of modify customers' computer, applications that modify customers' computers in unexpected or harmful ways, such as malware, viruses, applications that fraudulently attempt to gather sensitive information. Valve has been in the business of letting Marketplace sort itself out since last June, when it officially kicked its current policy via a blog post. And again, is it technically against the rules? I don't know. It's a book, a visual novel. It's not exactly a free play. I don't really want to get into the literal nuts and bolts of it, because I think once you start peeling certain things away and trying to get too granular on things, you end up making just too many exceptions, and you don't have any strong rules. I fully predict that Steam will kick this game. Of course it will. I would be surprised if these journalism outlets like Polygon and PC Gamer will let this stand. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody like PayPal get involved here and say, Steam, look, you're just not going to have this game because we're PayPal, and this is 2019. This is what we do. We do censor people. And whether you agree or disagree with the content of the game, to wish its existence be snuffed out, interesting choice of word, simply because you don't like it, is censorship, something that I don't agree with. Now, if Steam chooses not to host the game, of course, that's their decision. This is the world we live in. I would strongly guess that this is going to be far too much heat than it's worth. And ultimately, what all these outlets have done is created a bunch of buzz around a game that will sell well anyway on their own website or through some other marketplace that maybe is more available or more maybe overseas. Steam game about widget women will test Valve's hands-off approach. Is it against the rules? Midway through last year, Valve made headlines after announcing it would allow anything on its storefront that was not illegal or straight-up trolling. I think that's a reasonable... I need to actually check this article for pictures. Okay. There are some... I couldn't even really bring up the Steam page because there's interesting pictures on it, which I'm sure none of you will go check out. Such a vague edict might be why, as of this writing, there's a visual novel that promises to let you play as a sociopath who can violate women during a zombie apocalypse. It's literally called Widget Day. The game is not out yet, and it is marked adult, which means that you can't see it unless you're logged into Steam and have opted in to see games of that nature in your feed. The game's description, which lists, quote, evil choices as a feature, says that it will let players do all sorts of bad things as you progress the story. Widget Day boasts it has over 7,000 words, which, judging from the writing of the screenshots, it appears to be an amateur creation. Players who will read through the chunks of story and occasionally click on outcomes in the scenarios, which are illustrated with 3D renders of characters. Poor ones, I'm guessing. Valve did not immediately respond to requests for comment, but on the game's website, the developer seems to be aware that the creation is controversial. You can't reasonably consider banning widget in fiction without banning other things and torture. And you know what? I don't disagree with this statement. This game is bringing up probably a good conversation. It's interesting to me. To be outraged for outrage's sake, I don't think is helpful. To really think about and discuss, what is offensive. I think Steam's approach is probably the right one. Look, don't buy it. You don't like it, you don't buy it. That doesn't mean I don't think they will fold under enormous market pressures. And obviously this game is going to generate almost no revenue for them in terms of other things. Probably won't be worth it. It's my guess. Most people can separate fiction from reality pretty well, and those that can't shouldn't be playing video games, the developer continues. I don't disagree with that. Technically, Widget Day does not appear to violate Steam's current content rules, but the developer appears unsure if the game will make it to final release without getting banned off the platform. Already, the game has been modified to avoid potential content issues. In one update, the creator says, got rid of the baby scene in case it gets marked for child stuff. Widget Day's website also lists out a couple of plans of action, what may happen to the game and developer should anything get taken down. I have not broken any rules, so I don't see why my game would be banned unless Steam changes its policies. My game was properly marked and through thorough description of all potentially offensive content before Coming Soon page went live on Steam. In the last year, Steam has been criticized for its hands-off approach. While it has seen a boon on the platform that allows for games with spicy content, the fact that you have to log in, opt in, and look for games you want in question means with LGBT themes are treated the same as games like Widget Day. Okay, so your last paragraph tells me why you care. You don't want to be associated with that. I think games with, that are heavily about someone's bedroom choices should be walled off, regardless of what they are, if they're mature content. In this case, this game, might warrant a extraordinary quarantine on the site. But it's interesting that everybody's writing about it, right? If PC Gamer really cared, they would have just let this go. I saw a few days ago, VidCon gave absolute moron, in my opinion, Steve Shives $2,000 to, quote, improve his content. I didn't make a video about that because I didn't want to draw extra attention to it. PC Gamer, Steam is currently listing a game called Widget Day in which you play as a naughty person. Again, it's a visual novel. It looks super amateur. Update. The creator of Widget Day, who says they've tried to make a game for sociopaths, has posted another update on the Steam saying it's ready for launch, but the review process is taking longer than expected. I learned that because the game contains specific content. The content may be banned in some countries. The review process will take much longer than expected. Unfortunately, I was not able to get more specific estimate for you guys. The content is bad. It's hard to imagine how anyone would brush it off, as it may be illegal in some countries. Again, though, ask yourself if you really want to ask yourself a question. I was thinking about this last night. It's like, would you rather be widgeted or would you rather be murked? You know what I mean? Which one's worse? Well, they're both bad, obviously. You could do whatever you want in the open world type games. You can be as bad as you want, essentially, there. In Grand Theft Auto, you could partake in activities and then beat up the lady and take your money back. Is that what we're gonna call? I mean, it's such a fine line that I think Steam's ultimate policy of hands off, saying if it's not illegal, we're not going to get into it, is probably the right one. Again, would I want to sell this in my store? Probably not. But I don't know. I don't have a marketplace. I think having a black and white policy is probably a good idea, because if you show that you're going to bend the knee to every single time there's another outrageous game, you're going to be chasing that down forever, right? Oh, there's one scene in a video game we don't like. Oh, there's a tiny part of this video game we don't like. We don't like that part of this video game. I think the hands-off approach is probably the right one. I do think that Valve is going to have issues with their payment processors, probably, if people raise a big enough stink, which will eventually lead to this game being censored. There's other games called Bob's Saga, if you can figure that one out, and it's listed on Steam before ever being approved for sale. Of course, they've reached out to Valve for comment. I don't think Valve is going to comment. Will they take this off? I don't know what rule they would say it violates. It's going to be hard to find people really standing tall for this game. But I'm going to stand tall for creative freedom, creative expression, and freedom of speech. I don't think it makes you an idiot to not want people censored. I think you might have some compassion if you don't like this game. You might have, a heart. But again, I always try to take it back to myself. There's literally nothing forcing me to play this game. There's nothing forcing me to talk about this game other than the outrage, which is always interesting. I don't have to interact with this game at all. So its mere existence is of no concern to me. Should people choose to play this game? Well, maybe it's a government honeypot. You end up on some weird list. Who knows? We saw that happen with Discord. You never know. I'd probably be more afraid of that than my mom finding out I'm playing the game. I'm sure it's amateur. I'm sure it's loving all the free press because, if it does get kicked off Steam, it's still going to get miles and miles of free press out of this, and people will get the game from the website. So at the end of the day, getting removed off Steam is probably still a victory for this game. And I think if games outlets were really concerned about that, they probably wouldn't have covered it. This is a tough one. I think I have to side with, if it's not illegal, then it should be able to exist, regardless of how I, in particular, feel about it. I don't like that game. I don't like that concept. I won't play the game. I have no interest in playing the game. If you're a friend of mine and you play the game, I might think twice about borrowing you money. But at the same time, I don't know. Whatever people are into is their own thing. Again, as long as it's not illegal, I am not... Who am I to judge? And if you want to get biblical about it, judge not lest ye be judged, right? If somebody's into it, now I don't know what the spaghetti monster in the sky would say about someone who plays this game and enjoys it, but I'm not in any position to judge people, and I think more people should consider that approach when it comes to judging other people's hobbies or kinks or whatever it might be. Nonetheless, we'll have to see what happens. My prediction, of course, is that it will be removed off Steam, and they'll use PayPal or MasterCard or something to do it. We'll have to wait and see. I do hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.